UFC 323 is almost here, and this is going to be my full card breakdown and predictions. This card is absolutely stacked, dog. Absolutely stacked. The main card, loaded. Prelims, loaded. We got bangers galore all over this fight card, man. I cannot wait to break this one down and get into it. I mean, in the main event, we got Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan 2. Co-main event, we got Alexandre Pantoja versus Joshua Van. And then we also got another big fight in the flyweight division. Brandon Moreno taking on Tatsuro Taira. And then you talk about an undeserved opportunity. We got Payton Talbott versus Triple C Henry Cejudo. And then we also have one of my favorite light heavyweights of all time, 43 years of age, damn near, and still rocking and rolling, Jan Blachowicz versus what looks like a big problem in the division in Bogdan. Guskov. We got bangers galore all over this card, man. Excited to break this one down. Let's waste no more time and hop straight into this thing, starting with the very first fight of the night. We have Muhammad Naimov versus Mairon Santos. This is a tricky fight to pick here, I feel, man, right? I've kind of went back and forth on this one a little bit, right? Because I feel like, Mairon Santos is being a little bit overrated, right? I get the hype, right? Kid's 25 years of age, coming off of the Ultimate Fighter, right? Gets the nasty finish over Con Ofley, comes in, and I thought he lost this fight to Francis Marshall, right? To be fair, I mean, I picked Santos to win the fight, so I'm happy I got the pick right, but I thought he lost this fight. Right, but he's coming off of a nice victory against Sodiq Yusuff. That was up at 155 pounds. We know they're both featherweights. And, Santos has kind of been doing this thing where he's bouncing around the weight classes. But I truly feel that featherweight is his home, man. He's 5'7", got a 72-inch reach, and he uses his length well, right? Sits on the outside, peppers you with the jab, good Muay Thai style striking. And if you allow Santos to sit on the outside, man, this guy will obliterate your lead leg. Loves that low kick, will throw it to the calf and try to hinder your movement to where then he starts to open up his full striking arsenal. His hands are fast, good long combinations, mixes things up, to the body very well. I like watching Mairon Santos fight, and I feel like, for a young guy, I mean, he's 25 years of age. Right, and I feel like with every performance, we're finding out something new about Santos. It feels like he's starting to add more layers to his game. The one thing that I still have questions on is his ground game, and we saw that in the Francis Marshall fight. But then we saw Sodiq try to, get into some grappling exchanges, and Mairon Santos had the answers against a very, hard hitter in Sodiq Yusuff. So I was very impressed with Santos's last performance, but I still got some questions about the ground game, right? He's shown that, he can stay safe on the floor, get back up to his feet, but if you're spending too much time on bottom, you're losing minutes, and that kind of puts himself in some danger, especially as he starts to move up the featherweight division. But on the other side, I mean, Muhammad Naimov's a guy that's been around the UFC for quite some time now, right? He goes out there, beats Nathaniel Wood, and I mean, this win has aged incredibly well. Now, this was a very competitive fight, but Nathaniel Wood, I mean, he's been taking out a lot of these prospects. I mean, I thought it was a robbery in his last fight against Delgado, but Nathaniel Wood is as game as they get, man. Very, very technical. Goes out there, beats Eric Silva, loses to Felipe Lima, right? Competitive fight, but Felipe Lima is really good, right? Got caught, in a rear naked choke, and we've seen that Lima's ground game, it is very, very high level. Then goes out there, beats Con Ofley by decision, and is coming off of a win 5 months ago against Bogdan. Here's the deal with Muhammad Naimov, right? Throughout his career, he's not exactly the most dangerous guy, right? But we have seen he's got a solid ground game that he can look to go to, right? And on the feet, he's really the most dangerous if you start chasing after him, which is not something that Santos does, right? Santos likes to be the rangy guy. He likes to kind of pick and poke at you and get you to overextend to where he then can open up and tag you with those big counter shots. So I think that this is going to be kind of a cat and mouse game of who can get who to open up and make the other pay with their countering striking. And I think that tends to lean towards Mairon Santos for me in this fight, man. But listen, don't sleep on Muhammad Naimov, right? This guy's striking has gotten a lot better. He switches stances, moves well from the outside. He's got some good kicks. His hands have really gotten better. But I just feel like Mairon Santos is going to be able to get this one done. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight, but I think that Mairon is going to be able to beat up the lead leg in Naimov. I think he's going to be able to land some good elbows and knees in close. And I think once Santos starts to get the timing, he's going to start to let his hands go. And I think that he is going to land the more damaging shots which is going to get him the decision victory here. But I think that this is close, man. I could see Naimov going out there, fighting smart, sticking and moving, not just allowing Santos to blast those leg kicks from the outside. Expect some, stand switches from Naimov. And I think if Muhammad comes in here and grapples and can get the takedowns, he could definitely control Santos on the ground and snag some minutes here. But I am going to side with Mairon Santos here. He's young, he's dangerous, he's making improvements every single time out. And I think those leg kicks and the striking from range is going to give Naimov some issues here. But very competitive fight. I'm going to pick Santos to get this one done by a decision. Moving on, we have Mansur Abdul-Malik versus Antonio Trocoli. Let's not overthink this one, man. This is going to be Mansur Abdul-Malik by a first-round knockout. At least I think that that's what the UFC is hoping for here. Listen, Mansur Abdul-Malik has been on an absolute tear since coming into the UFC, right? Came over from LFA, comes on to the Contender Series, finishes Wes Schultz on the ground, right? We know that Mansur has, a very high-level wrestling background, and, he's shown that. Right, goes out there, finishes Dusko Todorovic, right, goes out there, and there was some froggy moments against Nick Klein, right, got hurt early, but was able to bounce back and get the finish, right, and then, the stuff going on here with the Brundage fight. But what we've seen from Mansur is this guy's got nasty ground and pound, man. He's a very physically imposing guy in this weight class. He's got good takedowns, and when he gets you down, that ground and pound is nasty, man. And on the feet, a little bit reckless, which does make me nervous as he starts to climb his way through the middleweight division. But I don't think Antonio Trocoli is a guy that is going to make Mansur pay in this fight whatsoever, because since Trocoli has came in, fair play. His debut goes out there against Shara Magomedov, which that's a tricky fight, right? And he was able to, go for a little while there against Shara until Shara got his timing and then he finished him. But this right here is just a horrible loss, man. Going out there and getting, absolutely destroyed by Tresean Gore, getting, subbed. That's just a horrible look, man. And I think Mansur Abdul-Malik, this is a kid that is getting better and better every single time out. He's fought for Shogun, man. So shout out to Shogun Fights, good regional promotion as well. I like Mansur Abdul-Malik, man. His ground game is good. I think he's going to look to take down Trocoli if things get froggy on the feet. What we've seen from Antonio is, if you look at his regional tape, he's fighting a bunch of taxi cab drivers, right? And he kind of has his way with them, takes them down, gets on top, and is able to submit guys. We just haven't seen that translate very well in the UFC. And while he's this big, tall, rangy guy, I don't think it's going to matter in this fight. I think Mansur is going to get right after him, get a hold of him, let those big shots go, probably knock him out on the feet. If not, he'll just take him down, beat him up on the ground, and the referee will step in and stop this one. I think Mansur Abdul-Malik is going to run over Antonio Trocoli in round number 1 and get a very impressive knockout. Next, we got Ibo Aslan versus Iwo Baraniewski. This is an interesting fight here because I feel like a lot of people are going to count out Ibo Aslan coming into this one, but I got to be honest, man. I feel like a lot of that has to do with, Aslan has been struggling a little bit, but this guy, Iwo Baraniewski, he's looking like the real deal, man. Coming on to the Contender Series against Ali and going out there and getting a starching right-hand finish, man. This guy, he is ferocious. He's powerful. He's a ball of muscle. And if you go back and watch his fights prior to the UFC, he's got a very good ground game, right? He's able to get guys down, got, some nice judo, trips, sweeps. And when the fight hits the floor, this isn't a guy that's just looking to rack up minutes with control time. He's got nasty ground and pound, right? Very, very diverse on the floor. And I like that, man. For a dangerous light heavyweight prospect and on the feet, he's got a short, sharp, tight right hand, man. And that is, to me, a kryptonite for a guy like Ibo Aslan who gets a little bit wild. And, that's what we saw in this fight, right? He ate a nasty leg kick early, which that's going to be something to watch because I know that Ibo likes to throw a lot of low kicks. But I think Iwo is going to be very prepared for that, man. That straight right hand down the middle, I think, is going to be his best friend in this fight. And then on the other side, look, Ibo Aslan's good, man. Like, I know a lot of people are being hard on him, right? Goes out there 2 years ago, starches, Paulo Hanato Jr., to get the contract. Goes out there, gets some payback on Anton Trocoli, but he was getting touched up in this fight. Right, and that's kind of my issue with Ibo Aslan is he's this big, imposing, menacing figure in this weight class. But in reality, man, his technique is not tight. He's swinging big shots all over the place. And, if they land, great. But more often than not, what we're seeing lately is he's just getting tagged up by guys, man. And his chin is kind of on a platter because he's throwing these big swing shot, looping ooga booga shots. Then he goes out there and starches Rafael Siqueira. But we're seeing just how bad Rafael is, man. This guy should not be in the UFC whatsoever. So that win is just, I mean, it really has became nothing at this point, given that Rafael's basically been KO'd by everybody in the first round. Then he goes out there, gets fraud checked by Ion Cutelaba. And look, Cutelaba's been around the block, man. He's an OG, good ground game, right? Took him down, subbed him, and took advantage of Aslan being this big, loading up on all these combinations. And I feel like that got in the head of Aslan a little bit, right? Because then we saw him go out there against Billy Alakana. And look, to be fair, look what Billy Alakana just did in his last fight, right? And I've been saying, I think Billy is very underrated, man. He's a tactician, very methodical, good kicks, good movement, right? And Ibo struggled in that fight, right? And he was, and I feel like Ibo's kind of in his head, right? He's not sure what to do. And we saw that in the Alakana fight. He's like, do I get overly aggressive? Because when I do that, I get so wild that I get caught, I get hurt. Guys can take me down and submit me. And I think that he came out in the Alakana fight and he was in his head, man. I think that he was just so worried about getting so reckless where he's going to get knocked out, get taken down. And we saw a very slow-paced fight, and it was basically a staring contest to where Billy Alakana was able to edge that one out by just basically throwing some kicks out there. So I'm not writing off Ibo Aslan in this fight because I do take some positives from the Alakana fight, man. I know that, he didn't put a ton out there, but he wasn't opening himself up to being brutally KO'd. He wasn't giving Alakana those opportunities to counter him, but also by the same token, Ibo's style is built around being the aggressor, throwing these big shots and just kind of overwhelming you. And I feel like if he plays the slow, methodical approach, maybe he lands the leg kicks, attacks the legs of Iwo, and is able to, eventually get him out of there by butchering the leg, making him a stationary target. I think we're going to see Ibo kind of in his head from the last fight being like, I got to be more aggressive. I got to push the action. And I think that is going to be his undoing in this fight here. I'm going to say that Iwo Baraniewski is able to get a first-round TKO stoppage. I could see that big right hand landing on the feet early if Aslan tries to, be aggressive and slug it out. And if he tries to be a little bit more slower paced, I could see Baraniewski taking him down and beating him up on the ground. Because we've seen that Aslan's ground game is decent, but I think that it is a little bit suspect. I know Cutelaba's an OG. He's been around for a while, but I'm high on Iwo Baraniewski from what I've seen from this guy, man. He's well-rounded, nasty ground and pound, and I watch for that sharp right hand down the middle, because I think if Aslan is too reserved, he's going to get outscored in this fight. And if he gets too overly aggressive, I think Baraniewski is going to make him pay by being the sharper striker on the feet. Can't make mistakes against Iwo with that power, man. And again, Aslan, very, very hittable. Give me Iwo to get this one done. Next, we got Edson Barboza versus Jalin Turner. Banger. Striker's delight, man. Listen, Edson Barboza, he's an OG, man. Edson Barboza has been around for forever. I mean, when you talk about a true highlight reel, I feel like Edson Barboza basically has every single knockout highlight that you can think of. Spinning wheel kick, flying knee, he's got everything, man. And when we talk about Edson Barboza, I mean, this is one of the most devastating kickers that we've ever seen in MMA. Like, period, right? Edson Barboza is must-see TV, man, especially, when he gets a striker in front of him like Jalin Turner. However, the elephant in the room here is Edson is now 39, almost 40 years of age. And coming off of that last performance against Jakar Close, while I believe, Jakar is a little bit underrated and has been for most of his career, Edson just did not look like himself in this fight, man. And I know that Edson tends to struggle with guys that put the pressure on him, and Close did a very good job pressuring the heck out of him, closing him down, not giving Edson, the room to operate with the kicks. But I don't know, man. I feel like we're seeing Edson slow down, right? We saw against Lerone Murphy, again, one of the best guys in the featherweight division. That's what Edson's been in there with. Nothing but dangerous guys, man, right? Gets outscored by Lerone, had some, scary moments in that fight. Right, then goes out there, gets hurt bad by Sadiq Youssef, is able to battle back and win, right, gets the finish over Billy Q, right, loses to Bryce Mitchell, who's a grappler. So it's kind of been up and down for Edson Barboza, and I feel like we're just kind of coming towards the end here. However, anytime you put a guy in front of Edson Barboza that's most likely going to strike with him and kind of play this game from range, you got to be very careful against Edson Barboza, because even though he's almost 40, this guy can still kick like an absolute horseman. So I'm not sleeping on Edson Barboza in this fight. And look, on the other side, we got Jalin Turner. And I've been saying time and time again, man, Jalin Turner, I mean, with this frame in the lightweight division, I've thought that he's a guy that probably could move up to welterweight at some point, right? 6'3" with a 75.5-inch reach. I mean, not very often that you're going to see a frame like that in the lightweight division. But my biggest gripe with Jalin Turner, right? He's won one fight out of his last 5, right? He's been on a skid for sure. Goes out there, split decision loss to Mateusz Gamrot. Again, these are some close fights, right? And Gamrot is just a straight wrestler, right? Absolute war with Dan Hooker that could have went Turner's way, right? Goes out there, starches Bobby King Green, which was one of the worst stoppages in UFC history. And I feel like Jalin Turner was he was like, man, the referee, that was such a horrible stoppage, right? And I feel like Jalin Turner, he's just such a nice guy, man, right? And I feel like that was something that was really weighing on his mind, man. He felt really horrible about that, right? You heard his interviews, and I feel like that was something that was messing with Jalin Turner, right? He goes out at UFC 300, basically was looking for a walk-off KO against Renato Moicano. Should have had the finish, right? But he tried for the walk-off. The fight didn't get stopped. Moicano battles back into the fight and ends up getting the finish. Then he goes out there and just gets destroyed by Horacio Bahamondes, a guy that is a very good striker on the feet, tall, rangy guy as well. And he ends up getting submitted by Bahamondes, the striker. So with Jalin Turner, right, he retired, right, basically had 8 months away. So where's Jalen's head at, man? And I feel like that's always been Jalen's biggest battle. And I'm serious about the Bobby Green thing, man. Like, Jalen's such a nice guy. I feel like that messed with him, man. I feel like, that really messed with him to a degree. But I think Jalin Turner's going to bounce back strong here, right? The biggest battle has never been in the octagon, the skills from Jalin Turner, right? He was training down in Tampa, working with a very good jiu-jitsu coach and Matt Arroyo. And we've seen Jalin Turner's ground game's actually kind of good, right? He's got good submissions, right? He's got that tall frame from the outside, good knees, good kicks, good straight combinations. I think Jalin Turner's going to bounce back strong, man. I feel like his mind is in the right place, and that has always been the biggest issue with Jalin Turner. Not the physical attributes, not the skills, it's the mind. I think he's going to come back and put on a heck of a performance here against Edson Barboza. And I got him getting a knockout in round number 2. Maybe even does it in the very first round. But I think if you're going to stand on the feet with Jalin Turner, man, and you're not going to give him a lot to think about in terms of the grappling, feinting level changes, I think that favors Jalin Turner in this fight. I think that Edson is a name that motivates him. The style clash motivates him. Give me Jalin Turner coming back off the retirement. I'm just worried about his headspace, man, because I feel like he kind of battles with himself. Maybe he lacks a little bit of confidence in there. I'm not quite sure what goes on, but I think Jalin Turner is going to come back and put on a great performance, man. He's still only 30 years of age. 30 years of age. I still think that he has top 10 talent in this weight class. And when he puts things together, I think he is one of the most dangerous strikers in the division for sure. Give me Jalin Turner to go out here and win a kickboxing fight and find the chin of Edson Barboza, maybe even melts him with some kicks to the body. Gonna have to be very careful because, Jalin Turner's a southpaw, Edson's an orthodox style fighter. Those rear kicks are going to be a weapon. Kicks to the body, head kicks. I think Turner's going to find a head kick on Edson Barboza, put him down, and follow up with some ground and pound shots. The referee's going to have to step in. Give me Jalin Turner by round 2 knockout. But if Turner is getting in his own head and he's out there messing around, man, and he's kind of losing some confidence and just kind of, dilly-bopping around, Edson Barboza is going to be able to edge one out by getting his kicking game going. But I think Turner's going to coming into this thing ready to go. Give me Jalin Turner. Next, we got Marvin Vettori versus Bruno Ferreira. This is an interesting fight, man, because Bruno Ferreira, this guy's looking like a serious problem, right? And throughout his career, since he's been in the UFC, right, he got that, crazy knockout over RoboCop, which was, has aged incredibly well, going in there, starching, RoboCop like he did, right? Starches Phil Hawes, gets the nasty spinning elbow KO against Dustin Stoltzfus, and then he goes out there and, he's having a lot of moments against Abus Magomedov, but then he starts to slow down. Right, and then Abus Magomedov takes the fight to the floor, is able to submit him, but he's coming off of two nice wins, right? Gets the armbar against Arman Petrosyan, and then, a debuting Jackson McVeigh, and that was a disaster for Jackson McVeigh in his debut, and he's 0-2 in the UFC, right? Lost to Brunno, just lost his, fight recently, so, again, kind of 2 easy matchups for Bruno Ferreira, but this is kind of more about where is Marvin Vettori at, right? Marvin Vettori, while he's only 32 years of age, which is absolutely crazy, it feels like Marvin Vettori should be 40 by now, right, for how long he's been in the UFC. But he's one of those guys that's 32 years of age, but he's got a lot of miles on him, right? Remember when Marvin Vettori, fought Adesanya for the first time? It was a close fight. Then they ran it back for the belt when Izzy became champ, right? So Marvin Vettori, to me, has already kind of had his run in the UFC. In the last 5, he struggled. But again, Marvin Vettori is fighting some of the best middleweights on the roster, right? He goes out there, loses to Robert Whittaker, got absolutely destroyed in that fight, goes out there, beats Roman Dolidze the first time, and, we saw kind of this revamped Marvin Vettori, right? He's not just this, reptar, right? Just moving forward, throwing shots, just relying on his durability the whole time. We've seen Marvin kind of take a step back, right? Was training in Thailand, and he's added, more kicks to his arsenal, and he's got more of a patient approach these days, right? And we saw that it worked, well for him in the Roman Dolidze fight. Then he goes out there and gets absolutely battered around by Jared Cannonier. Got the beaks, the break speed off of him by Jared Cannonier, man. That was crazy to see the amount of damage that Marvin was taking in that fight. And then Roman Dolidze got his revenge in the rematch, just outclassed Marvin Vettori on the feet, which that is a horrendous look because, Roman Dolidze is not very good on the feet. Then he goes out there, very good fight with Brennan Allen, right? Some back and forth. At the end of the day, Brennan Allen was just a step ahead. Baseball bats fear Marvin Vettori. That is how durable Marvin Vettori is, man. We've seen this guy eat massive shots. A head kick from Costa. We've seen this dude eat massive shots, and it just doesn't faze him. He's got one of the most granite chins of all time, one of the most durable fighters of all time. I don't know that Bruno Ferreira knocks him out, but I will say this. I believe that Bruno Ferreira is the guy that he's just got the momentum behind him right now. And I think on the feet, Bruno Ferreira, he's more explosive than Marvin Vettori. We've seen Marvin isn't exactly the guy from, back when he was really rocking and rolling in his career, right? He was marching guys down, being super aggressive, very forward pressure based, relying on the boxing. And Marvin, he's not particularly great anywhere, right? His hands are decent. He's added some kicks to his arsenal. Not great on the ground, but does have a ground game. He's just kind of okay everywhere. The advantage that I give Marvin in this fight is we've seen Bruno Ferreira slow down as fights play out. And I think if Bruno comes out here because he throws these big looping punches, I can see him beating up Marvin Vettori, slowing down, and then Marvin ending up adding up the volume, taking Bruno down, slowing him down, and ending up winning a decision on the judges' scorecards. However, I am going to side with Bruno Ferreira in this fight, and I think he's going to win a decision. I think it's going to be 29-28. I think that Bruno's going to win the first 2 rounds. He's going to land a lot of big damaging shots on Marvin, and we've seen that Bruno's ground game is actually pretty good as well. Good submission game, so I don't think it's as simple as, Marvin's just going to grapple and take him down if things get hairy on the feet. We've seen Marvin take a lot of damage, man. He's taken a lot of damage, right? He's been around for a while. He's kind of had his run. Maybe Marvin pulls this one off, right? Because we've seen that Bruno tends to slow down as fights play out. So I don't really trust the gas tank of Bruno Ferreira. But I think he's going to land enough damage in the first 2 rounds, beat up on Marvin Vettori, and then I think he's going to start to slow down. We'll see Marvin start to pour it on in round 3. But I think it's going to be enough for Bruno Ferreira. Those first 2 rounds, he's going to land a lot of damage, stun Marvin Vettori, hurt him. Maybe he does knock him out. Maybe he's finally the guy to crack the chin. I'm just not so sure. I'm worried about the gas tank of Bruno, but I think that the damage that he's going to accumulate in the first 2 rounds, I think he's going to hurt Marvin. Marvin will hang around and then start to pour it on late, but it's going to be too late. Give me Bruno Ferreira to get this one done by a decision. He's powerful, well-rounded. Like I said, the biggest drawback, tends to overswing on a lot of shots, spends a lot of energy trying to knock guys out. If he can't get the knockout, I think Marvin Vettori is going to be able to put it on him because we know, Marvin's very durable. He's got a great gas tank. Maybe, Ferreira looks to, get the fight to the floor, right? If Marvin takes him down, we've seen Bruno's good on the ground. I think it's going to come down to the power striking of Bruno Ferreira and the damage that he's going to accumulate to get this one done. Give me Bruno. Next, we got an absolute banger in the lightweight division between Firas Ziam and Nazim Sadikov. Boy, if I went back and forth on this one, man. And I am not super confident in my pick for this fight. I'm going to tell you that right now because I think that this one is an absolute banger. 2 very promising prospects in the lightweight division, and I'm a big fan of both of these guys. And I've been picking these guys in all their fights, right? So I think that this is maybe the first time, at least recently, that I'm going to have to pick against one of these guys, man. So I don't really want to pick this fight, man. I just want to sit back and enjoy. May the best man win, but we got to make a pick. Look, man, I've been really high on Nazim Sadikov, man. This guy going out there, stopping Evan Elder, going out there, weathering, the early onslaught that we know McKinney brings, getting the submission, going to a draw with Vyacheslav Borshaw. But again, this was 2 years ago when we know Slava Claus is a very, very fun striker, very talented on the feet. Goes out there, stops Ishmael Bonfim, nasty question mark kick, man. Nazim Sadikov has got some serious power. Goes out there, absolute war with Nicholas Mata to where he was able to fold him with a right hook. And when you talk about Nazim Sadikov, This is a guy that he is one of the most entertaining fighters, I think, on the UFC roster right now, at least in the lightweight division. I mean, in banger after banger, man. And one of the things about Nazim, he's got excellent boxing. Good, tight, high guard, right? Rolls with shots really well. Nasty kicking game. And I feel like maybe the most underrated part of his game is he's actually got a really solid ground game. Good submission skills, decent wrestling, and I think he might break that out in this fight if things start to get a little bit dicey for him on the feet. But what we've seen from Nazim, man, his kicks are nasty. That question mark kick that he landed on Bonfim was ferocious, and his boxing, he's got some thunderous power in his hands, man. Throws those big hooks upstairs, rips big shots to the body. That's going to be very valuable for him in this fight against a tall, lean, and lanky Firas Ziam, because on the other side here, I mean, Firas Ziam, man, he has looked, I know that he's not finishing a ton of fights, but this is a guy that's competed in Glory Kickboxing, has that Glory Kickboxing background, just kickboxing in general, right? And he's got that tall, rangy frame where he goes out there, beats Figlak, where he goes out there, outscores Jai Herbert, who I think is, again, a very underrated striker in the division. Goes out there, split decision with Claudio Puelles. Not the greatest look, right? Puelles is super one-dimensional. Goes out there, starches Matt Frivola with that was a nasty head kick in the clinch, man, up against the fence. But again, Matt Frivola, he hasn't looked particularly great over the past year and a half, right? And then goes out there, beats up on Mike Davis, and I think Mike Davis is incredibly underrated as well. So for us, Ziam, he's been rattling off these wins, man. Right, and what we know is Ziam, he's got that rangy style, good kicks from the outside, laser beam shots on the feet, man. Everything is very technical. Everything is very tight and comes from where it's supposed to. Good knees, good kicks. If Firas Ziam can keep this fight on the outside, I think that he is going to be able to get this thing done. And we've seen his ground game improve, right? We saw him out here taking down Mike Davis, right? Mike Davis has got a solid ground game. I know Davis is more so known for his boxing, but he's a very well-rounded fighter, right? We've seen Firas Ziam, he's been really leveling up his game, man. He's became a complete fighter. We've seen him entertain the grappling. I think Firas Ziam, I think that he's very capable of getting this one done. I have a hard time picking this one, man. But I am going to side with Nazim Sadikov to get this one done by decision. I think that this is going to be a dogfight. And one of the reasons that I'm going to pick Nazim in this fight is I'm worried for him a little bit, right? Because we've seen him clip with some shots. We've seen him hurt. We've seen him rocked. If you're getting rocked by some of these other guys, if Firas Ziam is able to find that chin and land that, missile right hand straight down the pipe, I think that not only is he going to be able to outland Sadikov, but I think he can hurt Nazim and get him out of there. I know Nazim is very durable, but the precision of Ziam is very, very impressive, man. And that range, can give him some issues, but I think Nazim is going to pressure him. And we've seen Firas, if you can pressure the heck out of him, not let him play that game from range, he tends to struggle a little bit with overwhelming pressure, and I can't find many guys in this weight class that are going to pressure you more than a guy like Nazim. He's got a ton of momentum behind him right now. I like Nazim Sadikov to get this one done in a barn burner, man. I think that Sadikov is going to get hurt in this fight. I think that Ziam is going to get stung in this fight. I think it's going to be the body work, the boxing of Nazim, the high guard, and the kicking game. And I think that eventually he's going to mix in some grappling, maybe even find a submission on the floor. We've seen Ziam, submitted in the past by a guy like Terrence McKinney. Nazim Sadikov's got a good ground game, man. I think he breaks it out in this fight, turns this into a dog MMA-based fight. Don't just sit on the outside and kickbox with Firas Ziam for 15 minutes, because that very much, in my opinion, would favor the sharp guy in Ziam. A little bit worried, though, considering how Nazim does get rocked in a lot of his fights. Not the greatest look, seeing how Vyacheslav has kind of fizzled out, right? Going to a close fight with him, having these wars. But I feel like, sometimes a guy like Nazim that can just bring that dogfight to a pretty technical guy like Ziam, that sometimes can give guys like Firas some issues. I'm going to side with the power hitter here that also has good volume as well and has a very well-rounded game in Nazim Sadikov. Give me the guy that's got that dog attitude here in Nazim Sadikov. Great fight. May the best man win. Can't wait to watch this one. This is my favorite fight on the card, by the way. All right, next. We got Maycee Barber versus Corinne Silva. I'm going to pick Maycee Barber to win this fight by a decision. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight, but this just comes down to, for me, I was actually very disappointed in Corinne Silva's last fight, right? Dion Barboza, I believe that this was a rematch from back in the day, and, Barboza took that fight, I believe, on short notice, right? And Corinne Silva, she was kind of squeaking by in that fight, man. Right, I know, since she's came into the UFC, right, the nasty knee bar on Ketlin Souza, very, very impressive, right? Submits Moroz, nasty guillotine, right? Goes out there, beats, De Silva, loses to Viviane Araújo. not the greatest loss. I know Araujo's a veteran, but she's not that great, right? And I know that she went out there and did, at the end of the day, get the win over Dion Barboza. But I was expecting a lot more from Corinne in that fight, man. But what we've seen from Corinne, she's solid on the feet, right? Nasty power in her hands at times, right? But on the ground, I mean, she's a very well-rounded grappler. Good jiu-jitsu, on top, on bottom. If she could get Maycee Barber, to the ground, I think that she may have the advantage there, right? She's got nasty submission skills to where maybe she could catch Maycee in a scramble or something. But I feel like on the feet, while Corinne can crack, she doesn't have a high output. And I think in this fight, Maycee Barber, right, what we've seen throughout her career, I mean, she's got a very, very high motor, right? She throws a lot of shots out there. She's got power, decent boxing, gets a little reckless at moments, which I don't really like. But, she's active. She's busy on the feet, good elbows, got some power in her hands, right? We've seen that throughout her career, right? The ground and pound stoppage over Amanda Ribas has kind of overwhelmed her. But the last time we saw her in the octagon was 2 years ago. Right, remember she was supposed to fight Erin Blanchfield not that long ago. Something medical happened in the back, couldn't make the walk, and the main event got canceled. That was absolutely crazy. Right, so hopefully everything's all right with Maycee Barber, right? Been out for 2 years, having some issues. Hopefully she's healthy. But going off of what we've seen, I feel like this is going to be a very competitive fight because I think that Maycee Barber is well-rounded. I think that her volume on the feet and the damage that she's going to accumulate, I think she's going to be able to overwhelm and outwork Corinne Silva with the striking. And if the fight hits the floor, I mean, Maycee Barber, she's pretty good on the ground as well, right? Decent ground and pound, solid ground game, right? Decent wrestling, good work up against the fence. But I feel like Corinne Silva is a little bit more dangerous if the fight hits the floor, given the submission abilities of Silva. I think Maycee keeps the fight on the feet. If she gets taken down, scrambles, safely, and is just able to outwork Silva on the feet and land more shots and get this one done, I'll say 29-28 for Maycee Barber in a close decision. Next, we got an absolute banger between Terrence McKinney and Chris Duncan. If you are looking for fireworks, if you are looking for action, two guys that you call is Terrence McKinney and Chris Duncan, man. This is just a firefight waiting to happen, and I can't wait for this because I think that I don't see how this fight goes to a decision. That would probably be the most shocking thing to me on the night is if this fight goes the distance, man, because both of these guys, they're absolute finishers. And Chris Duncan, you talk about a guy that's really been shocking some people, right? Going out there beating Yanal Ashmouz. I mean, Yanal Ashmouz is really, really good, man. Really well-rounded, solid fighter. Or goes out there, gets finished by Manuel Torres, but I mean, super dangerous contender on the rise in the weight class, right? Goes out there, having, some iffy moments, but then ultimately gets the submission over Blachowicz. Again, another submission against Jordan Vucenic. Nasty guillotine Chris Duncan has, man. And then goes out there, has an absolute back and forth war with a super dangerous guy, Mateusz Rambecki. And, Chris Duncan, he's pretty solid, man. I wouldn't say that he's particularly great at any one thing, but overall he's durable, right? He gets hit, does get hurt, and finds himself in some trouble, but he's able to survive, able to battle back in fights, and he has a nasty submission game, man. That guillotine is very, very tight if he is able to lock that thing in. And on the feet, I mean, he displayed some solid striking in the Rambecki fight, right? Goes out there, landing a good right hand down the pipe, good kicks to the body, right? Mixing things up really well, and then he's also got great output as well. All right, so I feel like if Chris Duncan can meet the energy that McKinney is going to bring early in the fight, I think Chris Duncan has a very good chance of getting this one done. And with Terrence McKinney, I mean, we all know what we're getting, man. We're getting a 5'10", guy in this weight class with a 73.5-inch reach that just comes out like a bat out of hell, man. Comes right after you, gets in your face, and just tries to overwhelm you immediately and tries to get that first round finish. Right, and essentially Terrence McKinney, from what we have seen throughout his career, he's kind of one and done, right? He either gets the win in the first round or he's not winning the fight, right? Goes out there, runs over Mike Breeden, right? Gets the finish over Brendan. Goes out there, gets starched by Esteban Ribovic early in that fight. And again, Esteban stood his ground and did not let McKinney bully him early in that fight. Then goes out there, finishes Demir, goes out there and just runs over Slava Claus, man. And Terrence McKinney, he's got skills, man. Very explosive on the feet. Sharp striking, at least early in the fight, right? Then he tends to get a little bit more reckless, tends to fade. Very good on the ground as well. Good submission game, good wrestling, very, very athletic. This is a firefight, man. I think Terrence McKinney is going to sting Chris Duncan at some point in this fight, especially early on. But man, something is telling me that Chris Duncan is going to be able to replicate what Esteban Ribovic did in this fight. I'm actually going to pick Chris Duncan by a round 1 knockout, man. Again, if you go back and watch the Chris Duncan versus Rebecki fight, Rebecki's a southpaw, Duncan is an orthodox fighter. He was blasting that kick to the body really, really well and starting to bring that thing upstairs. And we've seen, Ribovic landed that nasty high kick on Terrence McKinney early in the fight. Terrence McKinney does not defend against kicks very well. I expect Duncan to be throwing that right hand down the middle, that kick to the body, bringing it upstairs. I think he meets fire with fire in this fight. Maybe gets stung early by McKinney. Maybe he gets taken down. I think Chris Duncan is going to find that head kick in this fight as well with the right hand behind it and is able to put Terrence McKinney down, follow up with some shots to where the referee steps in and stops this one. But again, T-Rex could go in there and do what he does, man. Run over Duncan, get him out of there with a nasty KO, a submission early on. Maybe this goes past the first round. Duncan drags it out and is able to lock in a submission or something. I like Chris Duncan, man. This guy has really, really been improving throughout his career, and he's one of those guys that's super game, man. I don't think he's going to shy away from, that explosive energy that Terrence is going to bring early in round 1. Give me Duncan to meet that fire that McKinney's going to bring and find a head kick in round number 1, a lot like Ribovic did in their fight. Give me Chris Duncan by round 1 KO. All right, next, we got a really interesting fight here between Grant Dawson and Manuel Torres. I went back and forth on this one, man. I've been kind of torn on this one because to me, I'm getting some shades of Sean Brady versus Michael Morales. Now, I'm not saying that Grant Dawson is Sean Brady, and I'm definitely not saying that Manuel Torres is Michael Morales. But the dynamic of this fight is kind of the vibe that I'm getting. What I mean is, Grant Dawson to me is maybe the better fighter, right? Not on the feet, but in terms of the ground game, Grant Dawson, I think, is the better package on the ground, right? He's got good wrestling, good submission skills, right? But what we've seen from Grant Dawson, especially throughout the past 5, goes out there, beats Damir Ismagulov. That's a great win. Going out there, Damir was very, very good, right? Goes out there and gets starched by Bobby Green in round 1, and it's like, how the heck do you get starched by Bobby Green, right? First, main event, I think, opportunity for Dawson. Goes out there and gets brutally KO'd by Bobby Green. A guy that's more of a volume boxer, not known for his power, right? A horrible look there, right? But then bounces back with 3 straight wins, right? Beating Joe Selecki, finishing Rafa Garcia on the ground with some nasty ground and pound, and then getting a win over Diego Ferreira. And we've seen that, look, you could say what you want about Grant Dawson, right? I know that, people complain about his style, say he's not the most entertaining. This guy is a very, very high IQ fighter, man. His ground game is really, really good. His wrestling smashed together with the jiu-jitsu, his trips, right? This guy's got a nice system when it comes to getting the fight to the floor. He's got options to work with, up against the fence, out in space. Grant Dawson, to me, if he could get this fight to the floor, I think Manuel Torres is going to be in some trouble because Dawson can really, he's got a nice back take. He's got very, very good control, very good pressure, doesn't, allow for a lot of space for you to bump and create, space to get back to your feet. Dawson's a hard guy to deal with on the floor, man, and that's what we've seen throughout his career. But one of the things about Grant Dawson, man, his chin. I'm not sure about his chin, man. When you're getting KO'd, and again, Bobby Green holds his hands low, and it was just kind of a straight left that kind of came out of nowhere, and I just don't think Grant Dawson saw it. But you saw him kind of slugging in the pocket a little bit with a guy like Diego Ferreira, who, yes, is powerful, but a little bit older. And we've seen throughout the, the career of Grant Dawson, man, if you can land a clean shot on this guy, I don't think he takes his shot very well, right? So if Grant Dawson can get the fight to the floor and be able to control Torres, neutralize him, I think that Dawson is going to be able to win this fight by control time, or maybe he even finds a submission. However, something about Manuel Torres, man. I've been very, very high on this guy, right? That nasty knockout of Frank Camacho 3 years ago. Starches Nicolas Mato, steps in, nasty step-in elbow, man. That thing was nasty. Goes out there and is able to submit Chris Duncan, which is a win that has aged incredibly well. Goes out there and he got starched by Ignacio Bahamondes on that UFC Noche card, right? But again, look how good Bahamondes is, right? A big, tall, rangy, technical, tactical, striker, right? And that is kind of a, in hindsight, kind of a tricky matchup for Torres, right? Because as explosive as Manuel is, he's not exactly a guy that's known for picking and poking and really thinking his way through a striking exchange. He just goes. Right, so Ignacio Bahamondes was very prepared and was able to snipe him from the outside, but then he bounces back nicely 7 months ago by brutally finishing Drew Dober, who's, a very powerful striker as well. I feel like this is that Brady Morales type of fight, man, where I think that Grant Dawson is better on the ground. I feel like if he could get the fight to his world, it's going to favor Grant Dawson. But I think early on, man, something's telling me that Manuel Torres is going to go out here in round number 1 and he is going to brutally KO Grant Dawson, man. I mean, when you watch Manuel Torres, this kid at 30 years of age, he's made some nice improvements. A guy that was, getting real loopy and ooga booga, right? Getting really windmilly with these shots. He's looked a little bit more technical, right? You saw in the Drew Dober fight, I mean, that right hand was straight, man. It was tight. It was sharp. And I think that right hand is going to find the chin of Grant Dawson early in round 1. I think Dawson striking on the feet is very, very suspect. Well, I think it's, a little bit better than what people want to give it credit for. Doesn't have a ton of sting, man. And I don't think Torres is going to respect the striking of Dawson whatsoever. And he's going to be prepared for Dawson, to shoot probably very early in this fight. So I think Torres is going to maintain range well, because if he explodes into range throwing these big reckless shots, that's going to make it very easy for Dawson to dip underneath, take him down, get the fight to the floor. I think Manuel Torres is going to be very, very smart in how he approaches this fight. I think that right hand or even that step-in elbow of Torres is going to find the mark early in round 1 against Grant Dawson. I got Manuel Torres going out here and getting the biggest win of his career and getting a flatlining KO against Grant Dawson, man. But we've also seen back on, early in the career of Torres, he's had some issues when guys are able to get on his legs, right? Some of those leg attacks, he struggled with those, right? So I imagine a guy that is a very high IQ fighter in Dawson, I think that Grant is going to take note of that. And if he gets the fight to his world, I expect him to attack the legs of Manuel Torres. So I think Dawson can win on control time, maybe even find a submission. But I just think that the big, explosive, and athletic Manuel Torres is going to be able to go out there, utilize his athleticism, utilize his speed. I just see that right hand, man. I can't get that vision out of my head of that right hand just being a laser beam right down the pipe and finding the chin of Grant Dawson early in the round. Give me Manuel Torres by a brutal first-round KO. Next, we got a very good friend of mine, Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskov. If you know, you know, man. Jan Blachowicz, good friend of mine, man. Listen, Jan Blachowicz, almost 43 years of age. And I've said time and time again about Jan could fight like this until he's 100, right? His style has never revolved around being super fast, being super explosive, being the guy that's just got to beat you to the punch. Right? Jan Blachowicz is very simple. Legendary Polish power, right? I have to test my striking, right? I mean, Jan Blachowicz is so fun. Love this guy, man. Right, but his style is so simple, right? He's got that Muay Thai style, just kind of moseys forward, swings his tongue around, like licks his lips, right? Just kind of works his way forward. Blast the leg kicks from the outside, right? I love watching Jan Blachowicz fight. And the reality for Jan is if you look at these past few fights, right, goes out there, gets, ran over by Glover Teixeira to lose the belt. And I was, blown away at how easy Glover Teixeira made that look. Then goes out there, beats Rakic again. Rakic injured his leg. The draw with Magomed Ankalaev. But again, Ankalaev was, former champion. Right, then goes out there, split decision, lost to Poatan Pereira. Right, in a close decision, lost to Olberg, to where I thought that Jan could have won that fight. So again, Jan Blachowicz, while he's in his 40s, he is still giving some of the most dangerous strikers in this weight class trouble, right? And we've seen that throughout Jan's career. I mean, he's only been knocked out, I think, one time, right? Jan Blachowicz is very durable, very, very defensively sound, excellent Muay Thai, thunderous power in his hands, nasty kicks to the body, excellent calf kicks from range. I'm a little worried, though, for Jan in this fight, man, because Bogdan Guskov, a.k.a. Anthony Smith's doppelganger, has looked like an absolute problem, right? I think that this was a UFC debut on short notice, right? Got stung a little bit by Oezdemir and then ultimately got submitted, right? So maybe, Jan Blachowicz takes a page out of Oezdemir's book, goes out there, starches Zach Palga, starches Ryan Spann, submits Billy Alicano, which that's aged pretty well, goes out there and brutally KOs Nikita Krylov like I predicted, because Krylov, like an idiot, just charges into range with his chin on a platter. Bogdan Guskov is dangerous, man. You can't overextend. You can't make mistakes against this guy. He's got that long bladed stance. His hands are low, and he just explodes in with these big boxing combinations. And we've also seen that, his ground game looks all right, right? We saw it look bad against Oezdemir, but again, Oezdemir was kind of stinging him up, and Volkan's a very good fighter, right? But we saw in the Alicano fight that Guskov's got a solid ground game, right? But we've seen him take him down. We've seen him, get in a little bit of trouble. But man, I can't go against my guy here. No, but seriously, I got to take my biases aside, right? My friend Jan Blachowicz, right? But Listen, I think that Jan Blachowicz is actually going to go out here and win this fight, man. And I think that he is going to find a submission in round number 2. Maybe he gets a KO. Maybe he just wins by a decision. I think Jan Blachowicz, it's going to be a little bit of a scary first round because Bogdan Guskov is very explosive, but he's a fast starter, right? And I feel like if Jan Blachowicz can make it through that first round without getting clipped, I think that he's going to invest in the calf kicks from range. He has no problem going shin to shin with you. And again, when Jan Blachowicz goes, he leads with the hands and follows up with that lead kick to the body. To remember when he left a footprint across the body of Dominic Reyes? I mean, Jan Blachowicz, he just kicks like a horse, man. Jan Blachowicz hits hard as hell. He's got sledgehammers in his hands. I know that he's almost 43 years of age. And yes, I'm worried because Guskov is very explosive and very dangerous. But if Jan wasn't 43, I feel like this would be almost a no-brainer to pick Jan Blachowicz. And even though he is 43, I know he slowed down a smidge, but he's still the more technical fighter. And yes, Guskov went out there and was able to, after a little bit of time played out, was able to get Alakana out of there. But I feel like if Jan Blachowicz can bang those leg kicks from the outside, affect the movement of Bogdan Guskov, and Guskov holds his hands low, right? So when he, extends and, just blitzes into range, I feel like that's when Jan is going to be able to sit down on his punches and land a big shot that hurts Bogdan Guskov and is able to follow him to the floor and find a submission. Maybe even Jan looks to grapple heavy, right? Especially early, right? Try to wear on Bogdan, take away some of the explosiveness. The one thing I worry about Jan in this fight, obviously other than his age, is the fact that I feel like if he tends to grapple a little bit heavier in this fight than what he's used to, we've seen him slow down a little bit in some of these fights when it comes to the gas tank, which is just natural, getting a little bit older. I still think Jan Blachowicz, even at almost 43 years of age, can go out here and beat a very dangerous guy in Bogdan Guskov, man. I mean, these were close fights. I know he still lost the fights, but I mean, these are close. Gave Alex Pereira fits, man. Maybe the hardest fight of Poaton's career almost, right outside of the first Ankalaev fight. Right, and then goes out there against Olberg, and Olberg was, kind of worried about the power of Blachowicz. Right, I feel like Blachowicz is able to go out there, bang up the legs of Guskov, attack the body with kicks, and then when Guskov just blitzes in with these big punches, I feel like that's when Jan Blachowicz is going to be able to open up with his own combinations, man. Because the thing about, Blachowicz, he doesn't chase. He doesn't chase after you, and that's where Bogdan Guskov capitalized on a guy like Nikita Krylov, right? And overwhelmed some of these guys that aren't necessarily that great on the feet. Jan Blachowicz is very good on the feet. Nice Muay Thai technique, very defensively sound. I am a little bit worried because he is a little bit older and he has slowed down a little bit, but I'm still going to go with Jan Blachowicz in this fight, man. I think that the calf kicks are going to be a difference maker. I think Jan's going to be patient. I think he's going to level change, mix in the grappling, but I ultimately think he finds a shot that hurts Bogdan Guskov and then is able to take the back and lock in a rear naked choke and get him out of there, man. I've been training with Jan for this fight, man, and he was a little confused. He's like, I thought I was fighting Anthony Smith, man, and then we were working on some Anthony Smith techniques, right? But no, it's Bogdan Guskov had to play it around. Jan Blachowicz, I think he goes out here and gets this one done, man. Big Jan Blachowicz fan. I want to see him get back in the win column here. I think it's a dangerous fight, but I think he's very capable of beating a explosive Bogdan Guskov because I just think that Jan is more technical, man. More technical, worried about the age, like I said. Maybe Bogdan catches him, right? I'm a little bit worried for Jan, especially early. Guskov is very dangerous, got crazy power. If Jan doesn't see a shot coming, can't get out of the way, he's going to get knocked out, I think. Maybe. Or maybe Guskov just wins a decision with damage. I don't know, man. I think Jan Blachowicz's leg kicks are going to be a difference, man. I like Jan a lot in this fight, man. My good friend, man, Jan Blachowicz. I think he goes out here and gets this one done. Henry Cejudo versus Payton Talbott. I'm not sure what Payton Talbott did to deserve this fight. I'm just going to be honest. It's very obvious the UFC is trying to push Payton Talbott, right? That's obvious, right? And Payton Talbott, to be fair, exploded on the scene, man. Comes over to the UFC, nasty submission win over Nick, right? Goes out there, starches Cameron Simon, beat the brakes off of him, man, which was a super impressive performance. Goes out there and starches Giannis early in the fight, right? Then goes out there and gets fraud checked by Ronnie Barcelos, but fraud check, maybe not really. Right, Ronnie Barcelos has ended up being a really good fighter, right? Solid striking on the feet, good ground game, and he's been rattling off some wins, right? He's just beaten Cody Garbrandt, just beat Ricky Simone. Right, Ronnie Barcelos, it turns out he's very underrated, right? Older in his career, but still very good. Then he bounces back very strong. He just got taken down, ragdolled around by Barcelos. It just looked like his grappling was zero, brother, in this fight, right? Goes out there and, puts on just an amazing performance against a very, very good prospect on the rise in Felipe Lima, who's got a very good ground game. Nasty submissions, man. And this was just such an impressive performance from Payton Talbott, man. And that speaks volumes. Right, the kid's 27, 5'10", 70-inch reach, big, strong bantamweight, man. Super fast, super dynamic, very explosive. Right, and the fact that, he made some, drastic improvements that quickly from this Barcelos fight to the Lima fight, going out there, stopping the takedowns, having success with his own grappling against a guy as good as, Lima. I was very impressed with Payton Talbott his last time out, man, and he's getting a big opportunity here, a big chance to break into the rankings as he's taking on Triple C Henry Cejudo. I like Henry Cejudo, man. I know he's cringe, right? Kind of built his personality off of being the king of cringe, right? Olympic gold medalist, two-time champion, two-division champ, I should say. Henry Cejudo, man, just a legend of the game, right? Goes out there, right? Starches Marlon Moraes, but that was 6.5 years ago. Right? Goes out there, beats Dominic Cruz, and that was the last victory, right? And then he had the retirement and just a disaster, man. One of the biggest mistakes, I feel like, from a fighter in UFC history, right? Cejudo was hitting his stride, man. Then he comes back against Aljamain Sterling, close fight. Could have went Cejudo's way. Very close fight with Aljamain Sterling for the title, right? Then goes out there, loses to Merab Dvalishvili, got carried around like a baby in the octagon. But again, it's Merab, right? So a loss to Aljamain Sterling, one of the best bantamweights. The GOAT bantamweight, in my opinion, in Merab. Then goes out there, loses to Song Yadong. We had the eye poke situation, and he was in that fight, right? He was landing some decent shots on Song Yadong. If this was a prime Henry Cejudo, I feel like Cejudo would have a very good chance in this fight. But the reality is, even though Henry Cejudo has that Olympic gold medal, in MMA, he's more of a striker, right? He's got that karate stance, chin kind of up in the air, spamming calf kicks from the outside, right? Relying on the right hand, short left hook, good knees in close, right? Henry Cejudo's a striker in MMA, man. That's the reality. Right, and with his wrestling, he can take guys down, but it's more so for control time, right? Maybe he can land some ground and pound. Maybe, he tries to implement a similar game plan to Ahani Barcelos. And again, Barcelos is a little bit older. We saw what he did to Payton Talbott, taught him a grappling lesson. So I think Henry Cejudo's looking at that going, well, I should be able to do that as well. But I'm not sure that it works like that because Barcelos has good jiu-jitsu as well. Right, and I feel like Henry Cejudo, while he could get the takedowns, I don't think that he's going to be able to keep Payton Talbott down. And you got to remember, man, Payton Talbott, he's not going to be a flyweight. This is a big guy in the bantamweight division, man. He's fast, he's explosive, he's very athletic, he's hitting his stride, he's improving, he's young. I think that this is just a recipe for a disaster here for Henry Cejudo, man. And I think that Payton Talbott is going to end up going out here and getting a decision victory over Henry Cejudo. I think he's going to land some big shots. I think Henry's going to get rocked. I think he's going to get hurt in this fight. But Henry Cejudo's a smart fighter, man. He's got high fight IQ. Sometimes I think he's a little smarter than what he actually is when it comes to the X's and O's at times, right? Overthinks things. I just don't know, man. What's he going to do? Calf kick from range, try to land that right hand? Talbott is so fast, dude. He's so much faster than Henry. Way more explosive, way more athletic at this point in their careers. Right, Henry Cejudo, to me, he's got the podcast with Usman. He's hot and cold. And I know Kamaru, right, he came back after a long layoff, showed levels against Joaquin Buckley. But given the performance that we just saw from Talbott against Lima, man, I feel like this kid is really starting to plug the holes with the ground game. And I feel like he's starting to level up quite a bit. And it's not like Henry Cejudo is some dominant grappler in MMA. He's more of a striker. That's the reality. He's more of a striker, right? Maybe he comes out here, puts on his wrestling shoes, takes Talbott down, is able to control him, beat him up on the floor, win minutes there. I just don't see it happening, man. I think the young, dangerous, explosive, and fast Payton Talbott is able to get this one done. The UFC booked this fight for a reason. I don't think that they booked this because they're like, man, we really want to see Cejudo go out there and get a victory. I don't think that that's the case. I think the UFC, honestly, I don't know if they can stand Henry Cejudo or not, man. I think Payton Talbott, we all know that he's someone the UFC is trying to build. I think he goes out there and gets the biggest win of his career and makes a name off Henry Cejudo, man. It's always hard to see the legend of the sport going out there and taking on these young guys that basically are just trying to make a name off of them. So going to be tough to see, but I think Payton Talbott, the youth, the explosiveness, it's going to be a little too much for Henry Cejudo to handle in this fight. I'm kind of worried about Cejudo getting knocked out as well, man. Talbott's dangerous. He's fast. Again, but Cejudo's been in there with some of the best guys. So not counting out Henry, smart. If he could get the takedowns, I think he could have some success. Maybe he catches Talbott on the way in with something. I'm just not counting on it, man. I think Talbott is going to be too fast, man. I think he gets this one done. Moving on, we got Brandon Moreno versus Tatsuro Taira. This is an amazing fight, man. And I've went back and forth on this one a lot, man. I've been hot and cold with my pick on this one. And to be honest, I'm not super confident in my pick for this one, man, because I think that this fight is just that damn good. I think that this is really, really close. I could see it going either way. Whew. We got Tatsuro Taira, man. Tatsuro Taira, I've been saying, is one of the true problems in this weight class, right? Goes out there, beats Edgar Chairez by a decision, right? Finishes Carlos Hernandez, right? Finishes Alex Perez. Again, Perez injured his knee, but that was, Tatsuro Taira getting to his back, right? Putting his weight on him, right? Causing some issues. Goes out there, loses a split decision on a 5-round Apex main event, to Brandon Royval. And, Taira was having some good moments, was taking the back of Brandon Royval. But also, Tatsuro was in some trouble, right? Brandon Royval's got good footwork, good striking, right? And he's part of the big three, right? The big three in the flyweight divisions, Moreno, Royval, and Pantoja. The guys have just been kind of ruling the top of the division for forever, right? So that was a big step up in competition. And that was a 5-round fight, right? Tatsuro Taira had moments, and it was a close fight, right? So a lot of good things in that fight, right? Then, the short notice opportunity where Hyun-Sung Park was supposed to be fighting someone else, steps in, ends up fighting, Tatsuro Taira here. And, Park just maybe not as good as a lot of people originally thought he was going to be. But again, Tatsuro Taira is just that good, ran him right over. Right, and what we've seen from Tatsuro Taira is his striking is getting better and better, right? He's got, he's 5'7", 70-inch reach. These guys' measurables actually match up perfectly here. But Tatsuro Taira, he's got that rangy striking. Good straight right hand from the outside, good kicks, good movement, good footwork. But really, it's the grappling of Tatsuro Taira that has really just shown to be a level above a lot of guys in this weight class, right? And when he gets to your back, he's a real problem. Nasty jiu-jitsu skills, really, really good back takes, nasty rear naked choke. Right, and he's not just a guy that's laying on you looking to, win minutes. He is always hunting for the submission, man. Nasty jiu-jitsu skills. And again, like I said, very much improving on the feet. Almost 26 years of age, and I like a young guy that is continuously showing new wrinkles in their game. And even though, like I said, he lost to Royval, we saw good moments. We saw good moments from Tatsuro Taira. And on the other side, we got one of the true legends of the sport and one of the greatest flyweights of all time in Brandon Moreno, who's just been in, the wars with Davison Figueiredo, the wars with Alexandre Pantoja. Again, a close fight where he lost to Brandon Royval, but it looked like, Moreno just wasn't himself in that fight. I don't know what was going on there from Brandon Moreno, but he's on a 2-fight win streak. Goes out there, beats the brakes off of Amir Albazi. Goes out there, beats the brakes off of Steve Erceg, man. And Brandon Moreno's got some of the best boxing in this weight class, man. He's got very technical striking, good kicks as well. And I feel like, for some reason, people tend to underrate, Brandon Moreno's ground game. His ground game is excellent. He's got very good jiu-jitsu, solid takedown defense as well. And even if he does get taken down, he does a very good job working back to his feet. Never accepts just being on bottom. That's what I love about Brandon Moreno, man. Scrambling little rascal, dog. Gets back to his feet, looks to get the space, looks to get to the boxing. I think if this fight plays out on the feet, while Tatsuro Taira does have some decent thud in his shots, has been mixing things up well with the striking and has been improving, I still give the edge to Brandon Moreno in that department, man. I think outside of, Joshua Van, Brandon Moreno might be the best boxer in the flyweight division behind Joshua Van, man. So I got him at number 2 in terms of the boxing in this weight class. He's got some good kicks to the body as well. Right, and Brandon Moreno's been fighting the best of the best for years now, man. Years, and he's only almost 32 years of age, so it's not like he's some old head, right? He's an OG, been around the block, fought the best of the best. Tatsuro Taira is very game. I could see him going out here, controlling Brandon Moreno on the ground, threatening with submissions that make Moreno a little bit, nervous to get back to his feet to where, Taira's able to bank some minutes. Maybe he lands some more damaging shots, right, and surprises us with the striking a little bit. But I don't know, man. I'm going to ride with the OG in this one, man. I think that Brandon Moreno is going to be able to go out here and get this one done by a decision. I think that this is going to come down to the striking of Brandon Moreno and the takedown defense of Brandon Moreno. Like I said, I feel like it's very underrated, right? I know that Tatsuro Taira, he's looking elite on the ground, man. Very, very good. We saw it against Brandon Royval. And Brandon Royval, very different than Moreno, right? Royval's a southpaw, a lot of movement, a lot of footwork, to where Moreno's a little bit more stationary, rocking back and forth, got that high guard, that solid boxing style, to where I think that Moreno's going to look to pepper him with the jab, bust up the nose, affect the breathing, mix the combinations to the body, and really put the boxing on Tatsuro Taira early, try to back him up, start to make him doubt himself. I'm going to go Brandon Moreno in this fight, man. I think that the boxing is going to be the difference, and I think if Taira does take him down, I think that Moreno is going to be able to get back to his feet, and he does a good job stopping takedowns. I know Pantoja was able to control him a little bit on the ground, and I think Taira's got a little bit of a similar ground game to a guy like Pantoja. But I don't think Tatsuro Taira is Pantoja, dog. I'm going with Brandon Moreno in this fight. I think his takedown defense holds up, scrambles back to his feet, and I think that he has the edge in the striking. We saw Perez having some success early against Taira. We saw Royval having success against Taira, stinging him up. I think Brandon Moreno's boxing and takedown defense and escapes on the floor are going to be the difference in this fight. Give me Brandon Moreno. I'm so happy to be here. Brandon Moreno. Give me Brandon Moreno to get this one, dog, man. I'm riding with the OG, Brandon. Great fight, though. I could see it going either way. I think it's going to be a close one, but I'm going Brandon Moreno to get this one done. All right, co-main event time. We have Alexandre Pantoja versus Joshua Van. I have never picked against Joshua Van. I don't know the last time that I've picked against Alexandre Pantoja. At least since I've had the channel, I don't think that I've picked against Alexandre Pantoja, man. These are two guys that I consistently pick over and over and over again. And what do? They win over and over and over again, right? So this is a tough one. This is a tough one for me to pick a little bit, to a degree, right? And Joshua Van, 24 years of age. And I said, listen, this guy is the best boxer in the flyweight division, I feel. And listen, I think he's one of the best boxers in the UFC, right? And throughout the career of Joshua Van, right, he lost to, Charles Johnson, ended up getting KO'd in round number 3. But again, Charles Johnson's the prospect killer. Very, very good striker on the feet, good movement, good footwork, and he really pours it on guys as the fight plays out, right? Goes out there, takes his fight on short notice, and ends up beating Edgar Chairez. Solid win. Goes out there, beats Cody Durden. But again, in these fights, we saw him have a little bit of issues with the grappling at moments. Not a ton of issues, but at moments. But what we've seen from Joshua Van is he has really started to improve his takedown defense. And yes, when guys get a hold of him, but he's starting to anticipate shots incredibly well. His eyes for seeing opponents, looking for the level change. It is really something impressive about Joshua Van. His eyes for seeing the shots coming. He's became very elusive with defending the takedowns, man. But we've still seen him take him down. Right in the Ray Saruya fight. Ray Saruya, very, very good wrestler, had success with the takedowns. But again, outside of that, Ray Saruya is not that dangerous, right? Not that great on the feet. So it was kind of the, striker in Van versus the grappler of Saruya. But you don't have to necessarily worry about a submission threat with a guy like Ray Saruya. But I said, guys, this was a fight that was very much going to benefit Joshua Van. People were like, why is this fight being booked? Going in there against a guy that is going to consistently try to take you down was a good fight to help Joshua Van for the future here, right? Goes out there, starches Bruno Silva. That's a win that's aged well. Goes out there and beats up on Brandon Royval. They beat up on each other, but, Joshua Van was getting the better of the exchanges, man. I picked Van in that fight as well, man. That was a crazy fight. One of the best fights of the year for sure. Love that fight, man. And, Joshua Van just showing his skills on the feet with, if you're on the feet with Joshua Van, I feel like he's going to probably be able to outstrike anybody in this weight class at this point. 24 years of age, takedown defense is improving, nasty boxing, mixing up the combinations well. One of the big things about Joshua Van is while his striking is very good, he doesn't have a ton of sting. I know he's finished guys before, right? We saw it against Bruno Silva, right? Can, mix shots up well, fold you to the body, bring the hooks around the guard. Very, very slick boxing on the inside. But I believe that this is by far the hardest challenge that Joshua Van has fought, right? And you could say, was Brandon Royval, because Royval has a decent ground game as well, but more so he's just a striker, right? That was going to be a back and forth kickboxing fight. In Pantoja, I don't have to go through the resume. In my opinion, he's the greatest flyweight of all time. I think he's surpassed Muddy Mouse Johnson, in my opinion, just given off of the strength of schedule that Pantoja has been in there with. And I got a little bit of bias, man. I met Alexandre Pantoja, and I told him he was the flyweight GOAT. And I also told Alexandre Pantoja when I met him at UFC 319 that he was going to go out here and he was going to beat Joshua Van by a submission in round number 2. And that is my prediction for this fight, man. I told Pantoja, I said, you're the flyweight GOAT, dog, and I said, you're going to submit Joshua Van in round number 2. And we were even talking a little bit about Joshua Van, man. Joshua Van is super skilled. Love watching the kid fight. He's only 24, man. So losing a fight to, Pantoja here, this will be the last time that Joshua Van fights for the title. But if he can stop the takedowns, keep the fight on the feet, I think Joshua Van is able to go out there and bust up Alexandre Pantoja, because we've seen Pantoja's hittable. Right, while his striking, could be a little chaotic, he does have some sneaky power. I think Joshua Van definitely has the edge on the feet when it comes to the boxing, especially. So if he can keep the fight on the feet, I think that definitely favors Joshua Van. And if he could scramble safely, get back, to range and get, to his game, I think Joshua Van could pull this one off here. However, I think Pantoja is going to be too much, man. And how can you not like Pantoja, man? I feel like he's the most underrated fighter in the UFC still, right? Getting more respect on his name. And this is a guy that's just super humble, one of the nicest guys, man. Seriously, I love Pantoja. Love both of these guys, man. Don't want to see either guy lose. But I got to ride with Pantoja, man. I think that this is going to be a different level than what Van has experienced in terms of not only the ground game, but the championship spotlight, the experience of Alexandre Pantoja. I think that it is going to shine in this fight, man. And the thing about Pantoja, he's got some sneaky tricks up his sleeve, man, right? He kind of lures you into this game of we're striking, right? He charges into range like a madman, right? He's the nicest guy, but when he gets in there, turns into an absolute madman. Tucks his chin, blitzes into range, right? Throws these flurry combinations, ends with nasty leg kicks. I think that Pantoja is going to look to attack the lead leg of Joshua Van as well on the feet, right? Because I think that Pantoja is not going to sit there and try to box with Van, and Pantoja's got sneaky power, right? Feints the level changes, right? Opens up the boxing upstairs for Pantoja. Pantoja's going to fight smart here, man. I think he's going to, hide the takedowns behind the striking. And this isn't some guy that's just going to take you down, control you on the floor, hold you. You are in immediate danger when the cannibal gets you down, man. He's got nasty submissions. And not only that, I think that Pantoja, he has one of the best rear naked chokes in all of MMA right now. I think that that's what he's going to hit Joshua Van with in this fight. I think that Van has some success on the feet. Pantoja is able to blend the takedowns behind the striking, get the fight to the floor, get to the back of Joshua Van, control him towards the end of the first round, start to build his reads, and then ultimately gets Van down in round 2, is able to get to the back and submit him, a lot like what we saw against Kai Kara France. Alexandre Pantoja is too good, man. He's well-rounded. His ground game is nasty. Of course, I'm not counting out Joshua Van, man. This kid is game. I've picked him in every fight. Hard picking against him here, man. I'd love to see him win the belt. But, man, do I like Pantoja, man. Great for the sport. Super humble. Willing to fight anybody, anytime, any place. Give me Alexandre Pantoja to go out here and defend his belt and submit Joshua Van in round number 2. I think that Van is very good. I don't think that he's experienced a guy as complete and as elite as Alexandre Pantoja in all aspects of MMA. This was just striking. I would favor Van. But with the ground game, the threat of the takedown, all those different things, I think that Pantoja is going to come in with a smart game plan and scramble the brain of a young and kind of still green in terms of the big spotlight moments in Joshua Van. It was impressive what he did against Royval. I like Josh Van. But I think that Pantoja is going to do enough to get this one done, man. And I think that his ground game is going to give Van issues. Last but not least, we have arrived at the main event. And if you are enjoying this video, if you could do me a favor, please give it a like. And if you could sub to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it, man. We have Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan 2. Merab looking to defend his bantamweight title for the 4th time this year. Absolutely crazy, man. Right? And the first time he fought Petr Yan, it was utter domination. Merab went out there 50-45. Petr Yan, shot 49 takedowns. God, I think it was 11 of them, right? It was a complete disaster for Petr Yan. However, I feel like Petr Yan has made some improvements since that fight. Now, I think that Merab has made some more improvements, which we'll get to in a minute. But, Petr Yan, this guy, he's as fun as it gets, man. Elite striking on the feet, elite boxing, great kicks, right? Blends his boxing with the Muay Thai together very, very well. Switches, stances fluently, nasty kicking game. And, I always say with Petr Yan, it's like ooh and ah when you're watching this guy fight. The trips, the sweeps, he just is a true artist in there, man. Poetry in motion when watching Petr Yan fight. And I thought that he could have won this fight against Sean O'Malley. Thought that was a little bit of a robbery. Goes out there 50-45 by Merab. Just got dominated. But since has won 3 fights. Went out there, beat Song Yadong, beat Davison Figueiredo, put on a 5-round masterclass, and then goes out there and took a fight basically just to stay active and beat the brakes off of Marcus McGee. Petr Yan in this fight, I think if he could stop the takedowns, scramble back to his feet, stuff some of the takedowns, make Merab really work, and Yan can attack the lead leg of Merab. He was having a lot of success with that in the first fight. I think Yan can, beat up the lead leg of Merab and start to give Merab some issues, right? And again, Merab's been very active, right? And if there's ever a fighter that's not necessarily going to catch up to, I feel like it's Merab. But again, we've seen fighters who, they're very active. They get a little bit banged up. They maybe tend to, the gas tank tends to be hit a little bit. Like I said, if there's a guy that's not going to affect, it's going to be Merab. But just something to keep our eye on in this fight. But I think Yan is going to come in with a good game plan, man, right? He knows that he's going to get taken down. It's just going to be dealing with the takedowns, getting back to the feet, not taking big shots from Merab, and landing those leg kicks from range, man. We saw Yan attacking the lead leg of Merab well in the first fight, and if Yan can keep this fight in his range, if he could stop the takedowns of Merab, if he could let his hands go, Petr Yan can give himself a chance in this fight, man, but I think that it is a very steep hill to climb because it's not so much of, well, yeah, Merab just went out there and 50-45 Yan the first time, but it's the fact that, if you look at these fights, Merab has gotten so much better since the Yan fight to where, yeah, Yan's maybe a little hungrier, right? I think he was banged up coming in, to that first Merab fight. But Merab is just getting better and better and better to where Yan maybe is a little bit sharper, but he's very much kind of the same fighter, right? Still super skilled and well-rounded. Right, but he goes out there, carries Henry Cejudo around like a baby. Goes out there, this was a competitive fight, especially late against Sean O'Malley, to where Yan, O'Malley was beating him up to the body with those front kicks. So maybe we see Yan implement a similar game plan here. Goes out there, crazy fight, one of the best bantamweight fights of all time against Umar Nurmagomedov. That was an amazing fight. Goes out there, beats Umar, who I thought was the guy to beat Merab. Goes out there and subs Sean O'Malley, man. So now Merab is a guy that's out here hunting for finishes. Goes out there and subs Sean O'Malley, incredibly impressive. And then goes out there and beats Corey Sandhagen, to where Corey had moments in this fight, but Merab almost knocked Corey out. Right, so we're seeing that not only is Merab this guy that's got crazy cardio, crazy pace, crazy strength, and it's just an alien, man, an absolute freak. He's a guy that ever since working with Coach Wood, I feel like they're really taking Merab's game to the next level. They're like, yeah, we got the cardio. Yeah, we can win, these decisions. But let's go out there and try to finish these fights, man. And you're just seeing a different look in Merab's eye when he gets into the octagon, man. And the fact that he almost finished Corey Sandhagen with the striking is absolutely insane. And then finishing Sean O'Malley with a sub, it's absolutely terrifying. I'm really worried for Yan in this fight, man, because Petr Yan's very durable. I don't think he's ever, since he's been in UFC at least, never been finished. But the reality is, Petr Yan has not knocked somebody out since 2020, which was to win the belt against Jose Aldo, right? He's dropped guys like Corey Sandhagen, right? And he's kind of played hot potato with the belt, the illegal knee with Aljamain Sterling. And it's like, if Yan loses this fight, do we see him fight for the belt again? Right? And Yan's kind of like the Yuri of the bantamweight division. He's just everybody, everybody's got a soft spot for Yan, man. I love watching Yan. Amazing fighter to watch. And I feel like he's the more technical and maybe the better overall fighter, the more skilled guy. But at the end of the day, I feel like as Yan is going to come in motivated, he's going to come in sharp, going to come in with confidence, winning three in a row, right? Yeah, he got 50-45, but, he defended a lot of takedowns against Merab. So I think that is encouraging. He was attacking the lead leg of Merab. Merab has evolved, man. He's gotten a lot better. His striking is tightening up. It's getting, he's sitting on his shots, landing these big combinations, right? And he was beating up the lead leg of Petr Yan in the first fight, which I feel like is a detail that a lot of people miss. You saw Yan having to switch stances, right? He was struggling to move on that lead leg, right? And then Merab just looked like he was breaking Yan with the pressure and, just the relentless onslaught, man. And I just can't help but feel like that's what we're going to see again in this fight here. And I do see a path to where maybe Merab can land a shot, hurt Yan, right? Not super likely. Maybe locks up a submission again. I don't know that it's the most likely thing, but it's the thought that I am worried, man. I never thought that I'd be worried about Merab really finishing somebody, especially a guy like Yan. But given these past two performances against great fighters, subbing O'Malley and damn near knocking out Corey, it's wildly impressive what Merab is doing right now. And I think he goes out there. I think he defends the belt for the fourth time. And I think Merab will be the fighter of the year, man. Goes out there, beats Petr Yan. His resume is insane, man. I think he's the greatest bantamweight of all time. Big opportunity for Yan. Again, getting a well-earned title shot. I'm happy that he's getting the opportunity. Still haven't forgiven Merab, man, for going out there and 50-45ing Yan like that, man. And I think, yet again, maybe Yan will take a round or two this time. I think it'll be a little bit more competitive. But I feel like Merab is going to go back to the calf kick. I think his hands, he's going to be sitting on his shots. And the other thing about Merab, man, since working with Coach Wood, you saw in the O'Malley fights, he's in and out of range very well, very elusive, right? Not necessarily just sitting in the pocket waiting to be, get into these exchanges. Merab's gotten a lot better on the feet, man. He's not a world beater on the feet, but he has gotten better. He's evasive, bouncing in and out of range, timing his entries well, mixing in the takedowns, and the threat of the takedown opens up the striking upstairs. This is a hard fight for Petr Yan, and I feel like Merab Dvalishvili is unfortunately his kryptonite, man. May the best man win. I'd like to see Petr Yan be able to get this one done. I'm a massive Yan fan, but you can't, what Merab has been doing, man, is absolutely crazy. You got to respect what Merab brings to the table. The guy's a beast. I think it's more competitive this time, but I think that he ultimately goes out there and wins a unanimous decision over Petr Yan. I'll say that Yan wins, 2 rounds in this fight, maybe, just a round. But I think Merab's going to go out there and clearly win this fight again by decision. I think he's going to sting Yan with some shots, maybe threaten with some submissions. I think Yan is good enough, defensively, to stay safe from getting finished. I don't know, man. This is a hard fight for Petr Yan because, again, Yan's got that high guard. It's easy for Merab to get to his hips, easy to get to those entries. It's just kind of a disastrous matchup all around for Petr Yan. Give me Merab to go out there and get this thing done by a decision. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it, and let me know what you think down in the comments. Until next time.